Good day everyone, I'm Christine May Emery Delphine, and for today's video, we will learn about field studies. So before we start, let me know first what is field studies. So field studies are learning experiences outside the four corners of the classroom. Field studies enable the learners to personally gather and analyze data in their own context. In a nutshell, field studies provide learning experiences that transcend regular classroom through direct experiences and observation. So during field studies, learning takes place in a reality-based context rather than mediated by videos or books. It gives the learners a taste of the outside world, which allow see what happens in their community. So the optimum benefit of field studies for teacher is that it allows the learners to target a wide range of learning competencies, and it also allows teachers to employ authentic tasks that are reflective of the curriculum. So compared to the two field trips, field studies highlight more student involvement because the learners are directly involved in the planning, implementation, and assessment of the activity. So field trips usually happen in a long-distance trip such as going to national museums or any other related places. So field trip is ito yung mostly ginagawa mostly ginagawa ng mga students. Pumupunta sila sa ibang lugar para mag-explore or para mag-explore. So what is good about field studies that it could take place in nearby areas such as rivers, government offices, supermarkets, and even inside the school campus. So field studies are beneficial to both teachers and students. For students, it creates attitude towards subjects, application, appreciation, and increased curiosity. Moreover, cognitive development and student motivation are also enhanced because they become active participants in planning up the activity itself. All these are applicable to both elementary and secondary learners. So, for teacher naman, nakaka-benefit siya. Teachers also benefit from field studies, the series of excursions and new educational perspective through teachable moments that rarely happen in the classroom, according to Manner 2018. So, why we use field studies? So, first, it provides experiential learning. So, field studies offer an opportunity to witness objects and events not accessible at school. Direct contact and conversation encourage more concrete learning experiences than merely showing videos or images. So, next is it targets specific skills and knowledge. So being able to experience things provides learners an opportunity to practice skills and appreciate values that cannot surface elsewhere. So next is its strengths schema. So the experiences in the fields stimulate higher understand and appreciation of previously learned concepts by means of validation. So next is it motivates values development. Exposure to phenomenons stimulates appreciation and concern for the visited event or place. So next is what is also the challenges and the field studies. So first is curriculum alignment. So one of the most defeated purposes of the field trips is its curricular relevance. Sometimes, if not most of the time, the curriculum aspect is replaced by leisure engagement. To ensure curriculum alignment, and teachers must through plan and excuse the desired learning outcomes. before any other purpose. So next is lack of understanding of field trips. So before conducting the activity, teachers must ensure that their learners have fully understand the nature and purpose of the field studies. So failure to do can contribute to the downfall of the activity. So hence as part of the preparation, teachers should teach the essential kick the start concept to the learners. So next is costly. So financial requisite is the biggest problem in the teaching strategy. So this is also the reason why teachers tend to engage a virtual field trips rather than actual site visits. So next is preparation time. So we need also have preparation. Um, Field studies require much time from preparation up to classroom discussion and assessment. While it is very important, it is also a fact that it could be interrupt other teaching schedule. This now anticipate for necessary adjustment in teaching hours and topics. So next is we need also to have safety. Safety is the most debated issue among other, and recent years we had witnessed various events where student safety became the talk of the town. So this resulted is in the passing of government and institutional policies. Recently, the Department of Education lifted the moratorium on campus activities and implemented new guidelines that adhere of K-12 demands. To ensure safety, all schools must be abide by its provisions. So, what to keep in mind when planning and doing field studies. So, 247 for a smooth and successful field study. The Center for Teaching and Learning 2019 enumerated things that teachers need to keep in mind in planning and conducting the said activity. So, first is we need to have a awareness. So, in a starter kit, teachers basically have to condition the learners before the actual visit. So teachers need to point out the purpose does, and prepared mind comes the responsibility and accountability. The learners will don'ts during the visits, and most importantly the assessment, having be able to learn about their freedom as well as their limitation when doing data gathering. So next is also we have to have a engage is the most significant factor that teachers need to highlight as student learners need to undergo through. Keep in mind that all the learners must involvement. They have to plan out every details and experience that be exposed to the same degree of engagement to ensure that all of them are learning. So next is metacognitive learning. So the metacognitive learning, the excitement should not stop on the site visit itself. So the most important part still is the deepening and valuing of knowledge and skills learned from experiences. So never let a good learning opportunity pass away without ensuring learning. So build upon curiosity signals effective in motivational learning. To start up the curiosity among the learners, teacher must conduct prior research on the environment or event that they have to visit. So imposing travel a question and supplementing information during the conduct of studies, arguments, interests, and encourages deeper learning among the learners. So next is the illustrate. So we need to have illustrate because illustrate never failed to integrate ideas in real life. The integration could happen during the on-site visit or inside the classroom. So experiential learning becomes more effective when it plays on the reality context. So learners should be able to see the applicability of learned knowledge so that they can successfully live what they have learned. So also we have assess. So as part of the educate process, it is relevant to ensure that the learner have gained the desired competence and knowledge. So this could be done through effective, meaningful, and aligned assessment activities. So that is the importance of field studies. So next is we need I hope you learn about field studies so that if in the soon pag may gagawin kayo or pupunta kayo sa magagawa kayo ng field studies, alam niyo na ako yung kung ano yung gagawin niyo. So next is the service learning. So service learning is according to the National Service Learning Clearinghouse, or service learning and is a teaching and learning strategies that integrates meaningful community service with instruction and reflection to enrich the learning experiences. So teaching with responsibility and strengthened communities. It is different from volunteerism and community service because aside from providing relevant and meaningful civic involvement, service essence learning targets the acquisition of specific knowledge, skills, and values. So service learning ensures that students learn the social studies context through active participation in community service. So service learning is founded on the philosophical roots of the experiential learning theory of Dewey 1938, Fair and 1970, and Kolb in 1984. So through the strategy, students are actively involved in a concrete experience and encouraged to do a reflective observation and expected to integrate abstract concepts that they learn in the classroom to understand their experience. So there are 3 types of service learning. So first is the direct service learning. So this requires students to come in direct contact with a community of people in need. An example of such activities are conducting an outreach program for the elderly or tutoring out of school youth. So the second is indirect service learning. So this entails students to channel resources for a certain project without directly interacting with the people they intend to help. Example of such activities are during fundraising activities for persons with disabilities and or donation drives for victims of calamities. So next is advocacy activities. So this requires students to engage in work on behalf of specific cause. An example of such activity is awareness campaigns against dengue. So there are also steps in service learning. So according to Gulger and Way 2000, there are 4 basic steps in implementing service learning. So first is we need to have a preparation. So this involves providing students with necessary skills and information for the project. After the discussion of social studies content, the teacher and student brainstorm possible activities, explores their roles, and identify budget and resources among others. So next is action on service. So after orienting students and seeking their commitment, the project is commenced and actualized. So next is evaluation and reflection. So this refers to the act of thinking critically about her experience in the project. So the teacher may ask students to rate the social studies contents to their experience and probes for deeper levels of understanding, or he or she may also require reflection tasks such as so next is celebration. So as a culminating activity, this may be done to extend gratitude to the participants and to share their experience with parents, administrators, and other teachers and students. So what is advantages in service learning? So if done effectively, so service learning poses a many benefits. First, it helps break down the barrier between the classroom and the real life. Students are given opportunities to apply social studies concept and skills in the real world setting. It is also make students feel empowered. According to Edwards 2005, so service learning increased students' sense of personal and social responsibility. So develop a more positive outlook toward others and improve their learning of content and enhance their self-esteem. So lastly, it enhances the relationship between students. The school and the community students are encouraged to engage in civic affairs, exposed by citizenship, education, and their knowledge in solving community problems. So there are also tips and service learning. So first is integrate with other learning areas. So since service learning entails significant amount of time and effort for preparation, it will be helpful for the teacher and the students to accomplish the project, not just in social media but also in other subjects. For example, in conducting an outreach for street children, students may write a letter of invitation as part of their English or Filipino class, deliver a song and dance number as a requirement in their music and physical education class, and give a bookmark about children's right and as a project in their social studies class. So next is the number 2 is if possible, let students brainstorm their chosen community activity. So it will be more motivating for them to spearhead a project that is aligned with their interests and philosophy. So the teacher can then act as a consultant or guide to ensure the success of the project. So that is the important and the purpose of service learning. So the next is assessing learning and social studies. So what is assessment in social studies? So the National Council for the Social Studies, or NCSS, is one of the leading advocates of social studies education. They argued that social studies assessment methods should be aligned with the goals of social studies, encompassing objectives, and have more authentic tasks. The NCSS in 1994 recommended the following guidelines for assessment. So Assessment tools should be grounded on the goals of the curriculum via be a mechanism for improved curriculum and instruction. So process to be applicable for diagnostic perspective and instructional purpose and possess fairness to all learners. So assessing students, as she mentioned, should be especially used to improve instruction, involve a variety of approaches and tools to measure knowledge, skills, and attitudes. So, be in line with the curricular objectives and the classroom experiences, and be cumulative and sequential. National and local agencies should support the capacitation of teachers and developing, selecting and implementing assessment tools involve educators and other social studies specialists in crafting objective, planning, instruction, and assessment, and designing assessment instrument evaluate enduring effective of social studies education. So on the flip side, Kerfman or 1991 identified common curriculum criticisms on social studies assessment in the past. So first is the social studies test has failed to measure student understanding, application, appreciation, and most importantly, critical thinking. So various scholars had also concluded that multiple choice tests in social studies were merely focusing on lower level knowledge. So Carts in 1988, second, the open-ended types of tests such as essays were also questioned due to time contains in instruction and examination. The third is on the issue, the center on the effects of testing, the achievement and the validity of test scores as determinants of accomplishment. So, social studies assessment should therefore create a feedback mechanism that reflects potential implications for the improvement of curriculum and instruction. However, this could only happen if all the elements, content, instructional methodologies, strategies, and assessment techniques are aligned with its goals. So the characteristic of 21st century assessment is first is responsive. So visible assessment works generate data that inform the curriculum and instruction. In short, teacher could adjust instruction, and educational leaders can consider additional educational opportunities to cater the present needs of the school community, responding to such assessment needs, and is true for it incorporates best practice in all areas. So next is resilience. So resilience, with the growing changes in the educational landscape, assessments should not be in one size fits all for form of evaluation. So in short, assessment must be adaptive to both the teacher and student setting. So moreover, the 21st century assessment approach is versatile rather than identical. This form of assessment best responds to the demands of teaching and learning environments. Ultimately, since the students are generally diverse, assessment must be flexible too. So next is integrated. So integrated assessment must always be reflective of the learners. They to consider their choices. So identify alternative strategies, enhance earlier learning, and assess their own thinking. To achieve this, it must offer opportunities to learners to use learning in real life. So next is informative. So the desired 21st century assessment must be clear stated and explicitly taught, where students are free to display their knowledge and skills. Moreover, learning complex lesson takes time. Learners must be exposed to learning opportunities and be able to build their own knowledge and logical sequence. So as they um, ace it through, their words must be progressively become challenging, so as the to develop them the 21st century skills. So therefore, the learning objectives up to the reporting of grades must be aligned with what is desired. So next is multiple methods. So multiple methods in 21st century and assessment continuum that includes an array of differentiated strategies. So authentic and alternative forms of assessment are also emphasized. Hence, process and products of assessment must all be recognized and appreciated. So next is communicated. So the communication of assessment data must be transparent and readily available for all stakeholders. So the learners must all the time be given feedback about their own learning process, and parents are to keep information through giving of progress reports. So the educational community uploads the achievements of learners beyond the scores of standardized tests. Hence, all data, including the results of authentic and alternative assessment, must also be included. So next is technically sound. So accommodations and adjustments is in assessments must always be readily available to meet the students' needs and uphold fairness. So students should communicate their learning in ways are relevant and appropriate for them to be valid. Assessment should measure and what it is supposed to measure. To be reliable, an assessment must be technically sound and practiced, so that teachers must be consistent in the administration and interpretation of data. So system of comprehensive and will align strategies that is inclusive and balanced. So next is systematic. So the 21st century assessment system is microcosm of an entire this assessment addresses all kinds of stakeholders and support of the improvement of teaching and learning. So what is assessment and formative assessment? So first, let us find out what is formative assessment means. So formative assessment included both formal and informal process that is the teacher and student use to gather data for the purpose of identifying next steps in learning. So according to Chapo 2015, so it also refers to the kind of assessment that provides feedback about their performance of corners to accelerate and improve learning formative. So learner to assessment is also the use of gathered and information to adjust teaching and learning to maximize the development of the learner. So in a nutshell, what makes formative assessment formative is the immediate usage of information to adjust teaching for maximum learning. So according to Shepard 2009, so formative assessment answers the question. So what is not understood in the lesson. So next is what adjustment should I make to the instructor. So next is what are the strengths and weaknesses of each learner. So and the next is what misconceptions do I need to address. So the last is are the students ready for feedback, and what feedback should I give? So in the classroom, we assess our learners formally through quizzes, projects, and performance. So that is formative assessment. So next is we need to learn also how what is collaborative formative assessment. So now that you have already been introduced to what formative assessment is, it is now clear that formative assessment is not a form of test but mechanism used by teacher to ensure learning. There are various techniques on how to engage our learners in formative assessment. So, and one of them is collaboration. So, it is technique in formative assessment and enhances the level of student knowledge and acquisition through interactive process. So next is what is summative assessment. So traditionally, summative assessment are done at the end of a lesson. So and using a paper and pencil test to identify student achievement in recent defined of summative assessment. So that is summative assessment. So how to plan for assessment? So first is what is to be assessed. So assessment instruments and should always be valid by clearly defining the elements of what is expected among students, particularly on their knowledge or skills, in order to craft appropriate assessment methods. Teachers must be very specific about what they want to assess. So next is what is the purpose of the assessment. So the manner of assessment defines on its purpose. Hence, teachers must always be aware of the reasons for such assessment. So formative if they want to gather data to improve instruction, and summative if they want to collect information for evaluation. So next it is what is assessment tools will best provide the information we need. So assessment instruments will always be dependent on what is to be assessed. So for example, so KWL, so what I know, what I want to know, and what I learn. So is a form of formative assessment. So used to determine the learner's extent of knowledge about an issue. So teachers can portray their innovative sense by crafting their own assessment tools in the context of the teachers. So next is who will collect the data. So teachers, students, or outside judge. So assessment itself has changed over the past years. So teacher might as well as get updated and on the gathering process, and a group of individuals might already be involved in the data collection, for example, involving students in peer assessment can be a very effective teaching and assessment technique. So students are not only engaged with their peers, but they also become aware of what. So next is how often and will the data be collected. So to be an effective assessment planner, you must keep in mind that teachers need to assess of all the time. So it just depends on the objective of a specific lesson on what knowledge or skills you want your learners to achieve. Basically, assessment ends when the favorable outcomes are achieved. So next is the traditional and authentic assessment in social studies. So traditional and authentic assessments are crucial aspect of classroom assessment. So however, as time passed by, many misconceptions have risen, especially on the aspect. One can argue that authentic assessment is for better that traditional assessment. So this is an example of a concept that you need to understand in order to become in the best teacher. So the purpose of traditional assessment is academic data not to be used in evaluation purpose with the data and at hand, teachers are all able to identify the extent of learning, specifically this type of assessment. Then easily give feedback to teachers on what competencies the learners understood and failed to understood. So next is rank learners. So with this accessibility of assessment data, it is quite easier to teachers to rank students. So traditional assessment in the form of examinations usually given high emphasis rather than performance. So this all because this type of assessment elicits information relatively faster compared to authentic assessment, so which requires more preparation. So feedback of evaluation results. So once the teachers are done with the evaluation process, it is now time for them to report the results of the evaluation. The result of evaluation are placed in a report card and are given to the parents during the parent-teacher conference. So next is reliability. So also we have also strengths and authentic and traditional assessment. So first is reliability. So an assessment tool is reliable when it measures what is supposed to measure. So this is the main highlight of traditional assessment. Teachers are able to convert the different competencies required in the curriculum guide in the form of an objective types of test. In this slide, the teacher will generate information. This is based on what is required. So next is validity. So validity, traditional assessment becomes valid only when it answers the follows questions. So first is what is to be measured. So second is how consistent is it measured. So next is this implies that valid assessment tools will allow the learners score the same regardless of the date they take the exam and whoever administrates the exam. So next is the easy to administer and check. So the paper and pencil type of tests generally contain only a specific answer per item, which makes it easier to administer and check. Unlike performances, this type of assessment focuses only a specific learning outcome and does not require more time and effort. So next is individualist. So traditional assessment is mainly designed to measure learners on an individual basis. The learners may find it difficult, especially during quarters. So next is limit skills and knowledge that are assessed. So another limitation of authentic assessment is that it only focuses on what is required. Due to the commands of performance, the learners may only address few learning competencies required in the curriculum guide, which bring us to the next limitation. So time constraint. So it is apparent that when students have to perform, they should also be given enough time to consolidate their concept and practice. And in this light, it costs not only financial resources but also an instructional time. Moreover, this kind of time issues also extend at home living and learners restless. So, which assessment type is better? So, which assessment type is better nga ba? So, social studies education aims to develop knowledge, skills, and attitude among Filipino learners for them to become functional, literally Filipinos in achieving this vision. Social study teachers must possess creative and reflective skills and content and pedagogy, especially assessment learners must be immersed in various experiences for them to achieve what is expected of them. So for the past years, there have been emerging concepts that teachers in the 21st century must implement. So including motivations in the classroom such as the authentic form of assessment. Authentic assessment is perceived to be far more effective than traditional assessment. So, because it can assess all domains of learning, cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. So, however, traditional assessment is also equally important inside the classroom, particularly during unit and periodical exam. So that is the traditional and authentic assessment in social study. So that's all. Thank you. Bye.